CEO used sign language with a single dad. "Help me, he has a weapon." What happened next stunned all. The hotel lobby breathed wealth in quiet ways. Polished marble floors that reflected the chandelier's soft glow. Walls that carried the hush of power. And people who walked as if time itself obeyed them. Ethan Cole moved through it carefully, pushing his mop with slow precision. Every stroke measured not just to clean, but to remain invisible. At 32, he had learned that invisibility was a skill, especially for a single father. Working nights after dropping his daughter at a neighbor's apartment, his blue uniform blended him into the background. A uniform that told the world not to look too closely. Yet today, his attention was sharper than usual, because from the corner of his eye, he sensed tension where there shouldn't have been any. A woman in a red dress stood near the reception desk, elegant, confident, unmistakably out of place among casual guests. Her posture was composed, but something in her movements was wrong. Her hand trembled slightly as she adjusted her sleeve, and her eyes flicked down, then up, then away, like she was counting seconds. Behind her stood a tall man in a dark suit, close enough to invade her space, but far enough to pretend he wasn't connected to her. Ethan's mop slowed as instinct whispered danger. The woman's gaze finally met his, just for a fraction of a second, and in that instant, her polished exterior cracked. Her lips didn't move, but her hands did. 2 quick gestures, subtle, precise sign language. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs as recognition hit him, like a memory resurfacing from deep water. His late wife had been deaf. He had learned sign language for love, never imagining it would become a lifeline years later. The woman signed again, slower this time, her finger pointing downward, her eyes steady but afraid. "Help me. He has a weapon." Ethan's grip tightened on the mop handle. His breath went shallow, the noise of the lobby fading as adrenaline sharpened his senses. He didn't react immediately. Panic would betray them both. He angled the mop, pretending to clean closer, his eyes flicking briefly to the man in the suit. Nothing obvious, no bulge, no exposed metal, but the man's stance was rigid, his jaw tight. Eyes scanning exits instead of admiring the luxury around him. Ethan understood then that danger didn't always announce itself. He gave the smallest nod, barely perceptible, a silent acknowledgement that he had seen, that he understood. The woman exhaled, just slightly. She wasn't just anyone. Ethan didn't know her name yet. But there was authority in her bearing, a weight that suggested leadership. Someone used to being in control. That made her fear even more alarming. Ethan's mind raced, calculating options with the cold clarity survival demanded. He was a cleaner, unnoticed, underestimated. That was his advantage. He pushed the mop past them, deliberately sloppy, water sloshing onto the marble near the suited man's shoes. The man snapped, irritation flashing across his face. Stepping back instinctively. That half-step created space. Ethan apologized quickly, head lowered, voice humble, selling the role the world expected of him. But as he bent, he caught another sign from the woman. "Quicker now. He's watching me." Ethan straightened and moved away, heart pounding, knowing he couldn't stay close without raising suspicion. As he worked, he scanned the lobby staff. The security desk, the cameras mounted discreetly in corners. Security was present, but unaware. This was a threat wrapped in normalcy. Ethan thought of his daughter, how her small hands clutched his shirt every morning, how she trusted him absolutely. That thought hardened his resolve. He circled back, timing his movements. And as he passed the reception desk again, he deliberately knocked over a small trash bin, scattering papers. The sound echoed louder than expected, drawing eyes. In that brief distraction, the woman shifted, her heel subtly sliding against the floor. positioning herself closer to the open space of the lobby. The man noticed, his hand moving inside his jacket just enough to confirm her warning. Ethan's blood ran cold. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. Guests murmured, some annoyed, some curious, but none truly aware of how close danger stood among them. Ethan met the woman's eyes once more, signing with a single deliberate motion, "Stay calm. I see it." Her expression changed, not relief, not hope, but trust. It stunned him how quickly trust could form between strangers when silence carried truth. He needed a plan, and fast, one that didn't rely on shouting or heroics, because chaos would get people hurt. As he pushed the mop toward the staff corridor, his mind locked onto a single thought: he might be invisible to the world. But right now, that invisibility was power, and he would use it. Chapter 2. Ethan disappeared briefly into the staff corridor, his hands steady even as his pulse thundered. He didn't run. Running would draw attention. Instead, he slowed, counting his breaths the way he had learned during the long nights after his wife's funeral, when panic threatened to swallow him whole. He knew this building better than most: every blind corner, every service exit, every camera angle. That knowledge had never mattered to anyone before, but now it felt like a map drawn for this exact moment. He re-entered the lobby from another angle, pushing the mop cart again. Eyes lowered, posture unremarkable. From here, he could see the woman clearly. She had regained her composure, her shoulders squared, her face calm enough to fool anyone watching casually. The man in the suit stayed close. To close, his gaze sharp, his body subtly angled to control her movement. Ethan noticed how the man's hand never fully left the inside of his jacket. It wasn't theatrics. It was readiness. Ethan's mind stitched together fragments of possibility. If he alerted security directly, the man might react. If he tried to intervene physically, he would lose the element of surprise. He needed to shift the balance without tipping it. As he cleaned near a cluster of armchairs, he caught the attention of a young concierge and held her gaze, just long enough to convey urgency. He gestured to a spill that didn't exist, mouthing a quiet request for assistance. Confused but compliant, she stepped closer, which brought another staff member into the area. The lobby subtly changed, filling with movement, with people whose presence narrowed the man's options. The woman in red glanced down, her fingers brushing her dress as she signed again, slower, deliberate. "He's getting nervous." Ethan answered without looking directly at her, his hand moving once, low and hidden by the mop handle. "Almost done. Stay with me." The suited man shifted his weight, scanning the room, calculating. He leaned in toward the woman, whispering something that tightened her jaw. Ethan felt a flash of anger, hot and dangerous, but he buried it under focus. This wasn't about courage. It was about control. He deliberately rolled his cart closer to the man, positioning it between them under the pretense of cleaning. The cart's metal frame created a small but meaningful barrier. The man frowned, irritation sharpening into suspicion. His hand moved again inside his jacket, and that was the moment everything tilted. Security noticed not the weapon, but the tension. The way the man's posture changed. Ethan saw it in the guard's eyes across the lobby, awareness flickering into concern. The guard took a step forward. The man in the suit stiffened, realizing too late that the quiet had shifted against him. He tried to move, but Ethan tipped the cart slightly, blocking his path just enough to slow him. It wasn't dramatic, just inconvenient. Inconvenience can be powerful. The woman stepped away in the same breath, the distance between them widening at last. Security closed in, voices calm but firm, hands ready. The man hesitated, then raised his hands, the outline of a concealed weapon becoming visible as his jacket opened. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Shock spreading like a wave now that the danger had a shape. The guards disarmed him quickly, efficiently. The moment contained before panic could ignite. Silence followed, heavy and unreal. The woman stood still for a second, then exhaled, the tension draining from her frame. She turned toward Ethan, her eyes bright with something like disbelief. Only then did whispers begin, guests piecing together what they had nearly walked through unaware. Later, in a quieter office away from the crowd, the woman introduced herself. She was the CEO of a global firm, accustomed to command rooms full of powerful voices. Yet today, she spoke softly, with humility. She told Ethan that the man had been a former associate, unstable, obsessed, someone she thought security protocols had kept far away. She thanked him not with grand gestures, but with sincerity that reached deeper than praise. Ethan listened, uncomfortable with the tension, his thoughts drifting to his daughter waiting at home. When he finally stood to leave, returning to his cart, she stopped him with a single question, signed, not spoken. "How did you know?" He answered honestly, signing back with hands that had steadied now. "My wife taught me. And being unseen teaches you to notice things others miss." The woman smiled, a real smile this time, and in that moment, titles dissolved. There were just two people connected by a quiet language and a shared truth that help can come from unexpected places. Ethan returned to his work, the lobby slowly returning to its polished calm. But something had shifted beneath the surface. He wasn't invisible anymore, not to himself. He walked out at the end of his shift into the night carrying no applause, no headlines, only the knowledge that ordinary skills, learned through love and loss, had saved lives. And somewhere in the city, his daughter slept safely, unaware that her father's quiet strength had echoed far beyond the walls of a hotel, proving that heroism doesn't always shout, sometimes it signs.